بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Inshallah, yesterday we had a pause, so today we're going to continue with the next letters. So today we will be discussing the letters Ain and Ghayn both. The first thing is how are Ain and Ghayn pronounced, how Ain and Ghayn mutaharrik and sakin are pronounced. And they're not really any major errors regarding these two letters except for just mispronunciation. So let's go straight to the letter Ain. So the letter Ain, how is that pronounced? First thing is that Ain is pronounced by making the area that's right in the middle of your throat very tight. Right, so if you can see this area right here, that area becomes very, very tight. And then after it's become tight, you end up letting out sound. So so that's at this area is becoming tight. That's what's producing. So it's regular sound, but when you make it tight, it comes out as rifatun. We'll go through the examples of mutaharrik and sakin later, inshallah. So ain is produced from the exact same area as the ha. It's not exact same, slightly different, but generally speaking, it's the same area as ha. So when you say ha, that area that you're feeling, that is the same area as ain. But with the letter ain, it's more tight. With ha, there's more air, there's more room for air to come out. So if you have any word like yah, yeah. So yah, if you make that area more tight, that would be the area for ain. So yah, so that's the same area, but a bit more tight. Then that is where the ain comes from. One thing which is kind of related to an error, applying too much pressure is incorrect. When someone's pronouncing an ain, the first time someone's learning an ain, it's okay to apply a lot of pressure. That just means that this muscle of yours is right now not used to figuring out what to do for the letter ain. That's okay. But if you learn an ain a very long time ago and it's still coming out very, very strong, then what's actually happening is this part of your throat, in the middle of the throat, the pressure is being so much where it's almost completely closing off. When someone closes off that part, it makes it very difficult to pronounce the ain. If someone wants to personally test themselves to see that are they putting too much pressure, a very simple way is to recite an ain that's sakin and let it continue. So for example, like the word ma'rifatun, right? So you'll have the word ma'rifatun, right? Ma'rifatun. If you can't carry it at all, if you just go ma and it stops, like ma, and it just ends, you can't continue it at all, that means you may be applying a bit too much pressure. You should be able to carry it for at least a second or two, right? Ma'rifatun, right? Ma'rifatun, right? So ma'rifatun. It won't carry for too long because your throat's gonna start hurting. But if it's not carrying at all, if it just ends off at ma, that means there's too much pressure. You're closing off that area. If it closes off, you stop the ain, which would be incorrect. So it should carry for at least a second. Ma, rifatun. Ma, rifatun. If it just closes off, ma, like it just goes empty. You can't hear anything after. That means there's too much pressure being put, and you need to kind of loosen it a bit. Because ain is somewhat, it should be some very easy to pronounce. Ya'rifuna, yu'rafuna, should be easy to pronounce. If every time an ain comes, it's a speed bump for you, that means you're closing off that area, which is making it difficult to pronounce. Next letter is ghayn. How is the letter ghayn pronounced? So again, ain and ghayn are both throat letters. Ghayn is pronounced by tightening the area. So you'll see right here. By tightening the area that is between the base of the tongue and the back. So this is the base of your tongue right here. So it's right. So it's connected with your tongue. So you have the base of your tongue, that's in the place where your tongue basically begins. When that part comes into contact with the soft upper palate, so the palate on top, when you can if you take your tongue and make it go all the way back, you can see it's first very hard, then it gets very soft. So way at the back, when the tongue touches that area tightens that area, not necessarily touches it, then that's when the letter Ghayn is pronounced. Oh, oh. So you actually kind of feel it, the back of your tongue, and you can feel the top part. Oh, a little bit of pressure will be felt there. So that is a Ghayn. So that area becomes tight, they don't touch, otherwise it'll close off. The area should be tightened again, not closed off. Some people, they put too much pressure into a Ghayn and they stop the Ghayn. They say like, oh, oh, maghfiratun, right? Maghfiratun. They close it off. That's too much pressure. It should be able to carry maghfiratun, oh, oh. So it should yughfaru. So it should be able to carry. My throat's a bit, because of Tarawih, it's a bit off. This area is slightly below the area for a kha. Kha is a little bit above right here. So if you say it'll be a bit above. But when you say with the ghayn, it'll be slightly behind the kha. So the ghayn and kha are both from the top part of the throat, but kha is more above. Ghayn is a bit more down. The back of the tongue will rise to create the heaviness required for a ghayn. As you can see, this tongue, it's going up like this. So it's supposed to be straight down like that. It went up because ghayn is a heavy letter. It's not maghfiratun, it's maghfiratun. Ghayril maghdubi. And ghayril magh. So it's heavy. Magh, not magh. Magh would be wrong. It's maghfiratun. There should be no jerk in the sound, rather it should flow. That's kind of what I mentioned before, that the ghayn should not be like, it should be a sudden stop like firatun. That's too much pressure. That means you're closing off the area instead of tightening it. So that's ayn and a ghayn and how it's pronounced. Now let's just quickly go through the mutaharrik and sakin examples for both. So when ayn has a haraka, the middle throat is tightened, and when ghayn has a haraka, then the upper area of the throat is tightened. After they're tightened, then you release that area and make the motion for whatever haraka you need to. So for example, here for ayn, you have adabun, so adabun, uqiba, and iqabin. So uqi. With ghayn, so we have the word ghafara, and then next word is ghulibat, and ghishawatun. So gha, hu, ghi, gha, hu, ghi. So the haraka versions of these letters are pretty easy. People actually struggle with the sakin ones. So when these letters are sakin, the throats are going to remain tightened while air and sound is released. Well, not air, but sound is released. So for example, ya'rifuna, mu'tadin, sami'tum. Again, there should not be too much pressure being put into this. It should be easy. Ya'rifuna, mu'tadin, sami'tum. If every time an ayn comes and it turns into a struggle for you, like all of a sudden this الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه. If all of a sudden it should be الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون. But if it turns into something like الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرف, that means it's too much pressure being put in. It should be a bit relaxed. يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناء. It should be very easy. معتد, and then we have سمعتم. So all these ayn sound the same because this is the letter before it is different, but otherwise they're the same. Next is a ghayn, and ghayn again is a heavy letter. So whenever a ghayn comes, it has to be made heavy, especially when it's sakin. Maghfiratun. So maw, it's heavy. Maw, that means the back of the tongue is rising. Maghfiratun. Yughfaru. So it's heavy. Yughfaru. And then is still. When there's a kasra before a ghayn, then it gets hard to say the heaviness. Some people might say istighfar. In Urdu, that's how you say it, right? Istighfar. But it's not it's still. It's heavier. Istighfar. If anyone ever wants to kind of see how an ayah is said, especially with these heavy letters, very simple. Just go online and play one of the qurra that recite a bit slower, and you can clearly hear how they're reciting. The ulama and qurra of Tajweed say that pretty much all of them agreed that one of the best people you could hear online for Tajweed, not for how good they sound, for Tajweed, all the qurra agree that the best person you can hear is Sheikh Husari. Sheikh Husari's Tajweed was very, very, very precise and very, very accurate. If you want some very nice sound with it too, then you have Sheikh Mishari, Sheikh Mishari as well. He focuses a lot on every little letter's tajweed as well, as you clearly hear if you listen to him. But Sheikh Husari is the one everyone, all the qurra of tajweed normally recommend. But if you want something, a bit more tunish, then not tunish, but then you can go for Sheikh Mishari also to see how all these things sound. Anyway, so that's the mutaharrik and a sakin, ayn and ghayn. So we'll end off here. Tomorrow we'll continue with the next letter or letters.